So in the past few weeks, there's been an increase in these "stop chewing so loud" memes on the internet. I'm not going to go into why or what the meme originates from. Most of its popularity is likely because of the hype for the upcoming movie, but I'll go into how to go about creating these FNAF memes, or at the very least how I create mine. There's not a whole lot that goes into them. I did mine within Blender as it's my preferred program, but there's been some made in all kinds of mediums, namely Source Filmmaker is a good choice here. To start, the models I used. They aren't my own models, they're actually the UFMP, the Ultimate FNAF Model Packs model pack. I'm willing to go so far as to assume that most of these memes are made with the exact same models, as these models were created to be as accurate as possible to the first and second game respectively. I was even able to find a version of these models that came with a rig, which would make animating it less time consuming. Unfortunately, the one that came with the rig was actually missing material, so I had to port those over as well. For memes that actually take place from a location from the games, I also needed to recreate the lighting and setting to look as authentic as can be. So if not already present within the game files, I would go and create the background without the animatronics. For example, in my Stop Chewing meme, I used DALL-E to essentially fill in the gaps for where the animatronics were. Then I just touched it up in Photoshop. Once I have my background texture, I would align the camera angle to the field of view for the camera, and then add a plane to act as the background. I would then go and project the texture onto the plane. I also made sure to make the texture emissive within Blender, meaning it generates its own luminance and does not need to be lit. And with this alone, you can actually get some pretty convincing results, as I'll show here with the Suzanne model. But it's not perfect. Throwing the animatronics into it, even with them in pose, which I actually did after doing the lighting, it becomes clear that there's more to the lighting. Lighting the scene accordingly and adjusting the animatronics to match the pose they're in within the game is just a lot of patience, trial, and error. I ended up using many lights within the scene, some of which used negative values to draw shadows where they were needed. And depending on what you're making, you might not even need to light every character exactly. Chica, for example, I did not have any lights at all, and instead projected an emissive texture of her on stage, as she only really turns her head and chews through the entire animation. And you can notice this when you turn the camera enough to see the other side of Chica. Lastly, animation. This is the really fun part. This is where you get to bring the characters to life. Lip syncing can be a little troublesome at times, but it's significantly easier than other 3D rigs to work with, as the FNAF characters only talk by moving their jaw. There's also times I would compare my animation to other people's animations, see what they did differently, and sometimes I would copy what they did if they managed to achieve a certain expression with the characters. The hardest part is expressing emotion and expressions through every other part of their body, especially facial features such as eyes and eyebrows. Again, having a rig ready with inverse kinematics makes this part a lot less tedious. Within Blender, I would sometimes also use shape keys to animate certain things, such as the pizza slice that Chica was chewing on. And on that note, when it comes to animation, it's perfectly okay if you don't get it right on the first take. Especially when coming up with skits and memes, the idea or joke can change a lot in the creative process of making it. When I created the Stop Chewing meme, I originally didn't like that everyone would throw Bonnie into a T-pose, because I felt lazy and I felt like I could do better. I actually made a take of the meme where he instead swings his guitar.
Stop chewing so fucking loud, bro.
Leave that little guy alone. The fuck is you gonna do if I don't?
But when it didn't look right, I resorted back to the T-pose, and I actually found it a lot funnier. So it's okay to experiment with your work. And on that note, I suppose that wraps up today's video. This is not something I would normally focus on, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this one, I have one where I recreate an authentic 3D model of SCP-173 from the wiki. And otherwise, I do have a video on the backrooms if that piques your interest. And if you're into CGI, VFX, or 3D work, especially 3D work surrounding video game topics, then consider subscribing to the channel to stay posted. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.